Hello and welcome to the Cannes Parallel Challenge 2024. My name is Arno.
And my name is Matt, and today we'll be discussing Paolo Sorrentino's films Il Divo and his new film, Parthenope. Paolo Sorrentino is possibly the most prominent Italian filmmaker working today. After making his directorial debut in 2001, Sorrentino has become a regular at both Cannes and Venice. And he first gained Western recognition with his film Il Divo in 2008, which landed the film an Oscar nomination. He ended up winning an Academy Award for Best International Feature for The Great Beauty. And his films have a very distinct style to them, with this grandiose opulence in the photography, the costume design, the lighting, all set against a backdrop of classical music and slow motion, which makes the films feel almost operatic in form. He seems to borrow a lot from Federico Fellini, specifically with The Great Beauty feeling directly like a riff on La Dolce Vita, and his film Youth feeling like his own take on the film 8½. But for our parallel challenge, we decided to go with Il Divo, as this film won the jury prize at Cannes in 2008.
Il Divo, which is also the nickname of the main character of the film, is the story of Giulio Andreotti in the early 90s. He was a prime minister of Italy for 7 terms and survived through the decades, even as most of his powerful allies were assassinated, presumably by the mafia. However, Giulio now faces accusations of being tied to the Cosa Nostra.
So first and foremost, this is just one of the most energetic films that I've ever seen. Like, the style blasts you in the face from the first moment. From the opening to the finale, that energy just never dips. It stays constant throughout, and it just finds itself somewhere between a Guy Ritchie mob movie and Sorrentino's more typical opulent style, with those slow classical music sequences that feel like we're just floating through. I normally find Sorrentino's movies to be very well made, but wouldn't describe them to be fun, but this definitely was, with that crackling energy. There's a really strong building of tension throughout here, and despite knowing that our main character himself wasn't violent, his mob ties and the way Sorrentino shoots certain sequences builds this feeling that any of his associates could be taken out at any time. Just watching him there, he feels dangerous throughout the film.
I'm always impressed with Sorrentino as a craftsman and as a sort of music video director who actually thinks through his images he creates and how they'll all be put together. I think Il Divo may feature the most interesting character I've seen him tackle to date, and it's actually kind of fun trying to figure out this man just as much as Sorrentino himself seems to be. However, and I have trouble explaining this, but I have a lot of trouble entering the world of Sorrentino. Something for me just doesn't connect, and I feel a bit indifferent to the whole ordeal by the end, even if I wish I could cling on to a little bit more.
Well, this just brings me back to something that I feel like we always go back and forth on. I always tend much more to these maximalist filmmakers, and I love the style over substance type of filmmaker, which Sorrentino certainly is, although I think there is a lot of substance here. And I gotta say, you can just chew on those long takes. The long takes are gorgeous. There's one sequence near the end that stands out in particular to me, where the camera just floats through the back hallways of a courthouse, and it ends up going into the courtroom. Oh my God, mwah. It is perfect, it is beautiful, and it just shows, like you're saying, Sorrentino is a formal master.
The long take that stood out to me was the one at the party, but absolutely. And I think Sorrentino is very strong, not just in his long takes, but also in his cross-cutting, in his editing, even if, weirdly enough, that might be part of the reason I have trouble getting into his films, is that we keep cutting from things to things, and I feel like I don't have enough time to understand what is happening. But Sorrentino really seems to like watching the lives of older, important men in Italy and fantasize about how they live their lives. And they seem to say the deepest and clearest of citations right off the bat, like if it's nothing. And they get to bask around luxurious products and historical buildings and are surrounded by gorgeous women. There is something interesting in this shamelessness and in this fantasy of Italy. I'm just not sure that these characters fascinate me that much.
I see Sorrentino's older protagonists as being showcases of regret, of the entire country of Italy, which is aging and aging rapidly. Something that you can always feel even in Italy's cities is that it is past its prime. You know, the city of Rome is this dusty place that was once an empire and now is a city built in the ruins of that empire. And here, the character of Andreotti feels like he's reckoning not just with that character, but also with the entire country. How did we let this person stay in power for so long? How did we let this happen? How, as a country, was this acceptable? And that, to me, is very interesting. I think his characters are very well thought out. Parthenope is Sorrentino's new film that tells the story about the life of a woman starting from her birth and carrying on through the next 50 years of her life. Parthenope is named for a mythical figure, but also refers to the citizens of the city of Naples, which is where Sorrentino is from. It stars a very large cast of Italian actors, and apparently Gary Oldman is featured in a very small role here. And very interestingly, Parthenope is the first time that Sorrentino has made a film with a woman in the lead roles, and I find that to be a very fascinating proposition.
Parthenope is described also by Thierry Frémaux as the journey of a beautiful woman who wants to be seen for more than just her looks. And if that's true, then Sorrentino is completely putting himself into question and re-examining his work, perhaps like how Tarantino did with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
This was recently bought by A24, which is a big deal. The first major acquisition of the festival, and is A24 trying to pull a Neon and trying to go into the festival with a winning film? Could this be the next Anatomy of a Fall, the next Zone of Interest?
This could be what we thought The Hand of God could have been.
Absolutely. There was so much talk about, is The Hand of God an Oscar contender? And it ended up getting an international feature nomination, but not more than that. But this could be more. It seems like a fresh start for Sorrentino. Maybe this will be the first film you love from this filmmaker. A24 buying it this early before it's seen makes me think this has a great shot of being a Palme winner, a Grand Prix winner, and I think this could be one of the biggest hits of the year with critics and with audiences.
It's crazy to think just how popular Sorrentino has been with American distributors, from Focus with Youth to Netflix with The Hand of God and now A24. And Sorrentino hasn't been super lucky with the jury at Cannes, winning only one prize in the past for Il Divo. Even The Great Beauty didn't win anything, but this could be major. I think director or Grand Prix and maybe even the Palme is in reach with this. In the next episode, we go globetrotting with Miguel Gomez's Taboo and his new film Grand Tour.
So come along with us on this grand tour from Africa all the way to East Asia.